Between the Walls. Children's book by Tuula Pere. Summary. On his sailing trip, Leo the Little Wanderer arrives at a rocky bay and disembarks on a deserted pier. It belongs to two towns that are feuding furiously with one another. The angry mayors won't allow the traveler inside their stone walls. But luckily for Leo, between the two towns lies a piece of land that nobody owns. It is just big enough for his neat little cabin and garden, where many flowers bloom and the beautiful sounds of his violin fill the air. On warm nights, people climb onto the walls together to admire the view and listen to the music and the sea. Would it be better, after all, to tear down the walls that separate us? The townsfolk begin to wonder. Pages 2 and 3. A beautiful bay was hidden between steep coastal mountains. At the head of the bay, two towns sat on opposite shores. In the past, they had been just two small fishing villages. People from each town had often gone for long fishing trips together on the waves of the sea. Over time, the villages had grown into towns, and small fishing boats had been replaced by bigger vessels. Along with the growth, the harbor got too small and crowded. The towns began arguing about the harbor they shared. "We need more berths at the pier," the eastern townspeople fretted. "Our eastern neighbors need to pay more for any pier repairs," the western ship owners insisted. "The pier is much closer to their marketplace, after all." Pages 4 and 5. The dispute over the shared harbor grew more tense. People who used to be friends turned into enemies. Fish nets and baits had their share of strange mishaps. Fishing boats clashed against each other when docking. Ships and boats from each side raced seaward, each trying to reach the best fishing spots before their competitors. One foggy evening, there was a particularly heated dispute between fishermen. A ship returning to the harbor docked in a wrong berth, sinking a boat that belonged to a fisherman from the other town. "You did it on purpose!" the furious fisherman yelled from the pier. "Thank goodness my crew and I got off the boat in time." "It was an accident." The captain of the ship tried to defend himself. "It's this wicked fog. I couldn't see your boat." Pages 6 and 7. After this, the tension only grew. Before long, both towns were ready to break off all relations with their neighbors. "We will build a wall between our towns," the mayor of the western town announced to other mayor. "So will we!" the mayor of the eastern side exclaimed. "And our wall is going to be thicker and higher than your wall." Some of the townspeople didn't see any sense whatsoever in this wall-building plan, but they had no choice but to abide by their mayor's decisions. Everyone had to participate in the work. Pages 8 and 9. After several furious arguments over where to build the wall, the builders eventually decided to leave a strip of land between the walls. This no-man's land was a poor solution, as that was where the main pier was located. Now neither town could use it anymore. So the fishermen set out on their fishing trips from rocky shores farther away from the towns. Many ships were wrecked by crashing against coastal cliffs and reefs in the bay. The walls changed people's lives. Former friends and acquaintances could no longer see each other. Even though it was forbidden for the townsfolk to climb up onto the walls, they often did so in the evenings. They called out to people who lived on the other side. Pages 10 and 11. Life behind the walls made people suspicious. The neighboring towns were no longer in touch with one another. Both mayors sent angry letters back and forth. They complained about the other side's loud carnivals, its booming fireworks, and its stoves that gave off too much smoke. It was the children who came up with something to do together, regardless of the barriers. They made paper planes and flew them over the walls, passing greetings to their playmates on the other side. On windy days, flocks of kites rose into the air from both sides. The colorful kites swirled together above the sulking towns. If only we could visit our friends in the east one day, we'd surely have a great time, the children on the western coast said. Meanwhile, the children on the eastern coast studied their wall closely. Maybe we can make a secret gate, they thought. They carefully tested the stones along the thick wall, but none of them would budge. Pages 12 and 13. It was quiet in the neglected harbor. The fishing vessels had gone elsewhere. Only seagulls remained sitting idly around the decaying pier. On one of these quiet mornings, a little sailing boat approached the bay on a gentle wind. It was steered by a boy called Leo, who had nothing but a canvas bag with him. He wanted to build a cabin of his own and settle on the shore of the beautiful bay. As soon as he had docked, he headed determinedly toward the western town gate. Leo knocked and knocked for a long time before he was let inside the town wall. "We can't give you permission to stay here. We don't even know who you are. You might as well be a spy from the neighboring town," the mayor said suspiciously. "All I want is a berth for my sailing boat and a small cabin with a garden." Leo pleaded, but to no avail. Pages 14 and 15. Disappointed, Leo walked to the other town's gate. The guard let him in and showed the way to the town hall. His reception was not one bit friendlier here. "Not for the world! You can't just walk in here!" The mayor of the eastern town lashed out at his visitor. "But where on earth will I live if I'm not welcome on either side?" Leo wondered. The mayor's little daughter had followed the conversation, standing next to her father. She could not understand why nobody wanted to help the kind-looking little boy. "There is a no-man's land between the walls," she said. "Couldn't Leo build his home there? I'm sure there's plenty of room for one little cabin and even a garden." "That sounds wonderful," Leo said, delighted. "Would you please consider it if the other mayor says yes, too?" "Oh, all right then. But you'd better remember to stay there and not come to our town to bother us," the mayor snapped. The children smiled at each other. Pages 16 and 17. Once Leo had received permission from the other town's mayor to settle between the walls, he got to work right away. From both sides, the townsfolk watched how hard the little builder labored from dawn to dusk. When the grown-ups weren't looking, the children carried boards, nails, and other building materials to the tops of the walls and dropped them down to Leo. The little cabin went up swiftly. "I must have a garden, too. It feeds my stomach and feasts my eyes," Leo said. Soon there was a garden of vegetables and flowers next to his cabin. Carrots, peas, and many other treats were sprouting in neat rows. The first buds of flower seedlings were coming into view. It was going to take some time, however, before Leo could eat the harvest of his land and see the flowers in their full splendor. Pages 18 and 19. Leo sat in his garden and looked at the ugly stone walls on both sides. "I could surely do something about those gray walls," the boy thought, and opened his bag. The children sitting on top of the walls watched Leo curiously. What was he doing? They could see an assortment of drawing materials on the stairs of the cabin. There were crayons, paint cans, and brushes. How on earth did all those things fit in his bag? They wondered. It must be a magic bag. Leo could hear the children talking, but he didn't reply. He only smiled mysteriously, went to get a ladder, and started painting. By dusk, the walls were covered with beautiful decorations, winding chains of flowers, trees, and birds. The strangest thing was that in the darkening night, you could almost hear the birds in the paintings singing. Pages 20 and 21. When the grown-ups heard about Leo's wondrous wall paintings, they couldn't resist going to the walls to see for themselves. A little bewildered, they came in the evenings to listen to the singing of the magic birds and to admire the paintings. Everybody also admired Leo's pretty little cabin and his flourishing garden, which was becoming richer in colors day by day. "I must admit that little wanderer is a very skilled boy," said the mayor of the western town. He, too, had ventured out to his side of the wall. "I suppose there's no harm to anyone." The mayor on the eastern wall agreed. Night after night, more and more people showed up. They brought blankets and snacks with them and called out to their former friends on the other side. Pages 22 and 23. As summer was at its loveliest, the people of both towns spent hours at the walls during the warmest nights. They admired the starry sky above them and listened to the soft breathing of the sea. Late one evening, the townspeople at the walls didn't see Leo anywhere. They were starting to get worried. This doesn't mean that the wandering boy has left, does it? Even the grown-ups kept asking. "There he is! Listen!" Several children exclaimed, pointing toward the old pier. "Let's go down there." The children ran along the walls toward the shore, and the grown-ups tried to keep up with them. The sound of a violin came from the deserted pier. Pages 24 and 25. The people gathered on the walls as close to the pier as they could. The children couldn't resist climbing over the craggy walls. "Be careful, children! Don't hurt yourselves!" their parents shouted. The cries were of no use because the children rushed into the shallow water, making loud splashes. The grown-ups had to come after them to look out for the smallest ones. Some of the people walked to the pier to listen to Leo play his violin. "Get out of there! You're on no man's land!" both mayors yelled angrily from their walls, but people did not listen. Pages 26 and 27. On the shore, the townsfolk were gathering more and more tightly around the violin player. The music was so beautiful that gradually the hum of voices faded away. When Leo put down his violin, nobody said a word. All they could hear was the roar of the drowsy sea. "When are you going to start using this pier again?" Leo asked. "We can't. That's what the mayors and the town councils have decided," the townsfolk complained. "I don't understand," Leo said. "The fishermen from both towns need a pier in the middle of the bay, and this old pier is in the best possible spot." Pages 28 and 29. The conversation around Leo grew more heated. The two mayors had also slipped down from their walls to join the others. After having listened to the townsfolk for a while, they wanted to have their say too. "We can't start using the old pier again, even if we wanted to. It is in such poor condition," the mayor of the eastern town said. "We'd need a huge amount of stone blocks to repair it." The other mayor agreed. "It would be very costly." Leo walked right up to both mayors. He had a solution, and he knew that the residents of both towns would all support the idea. "But we do have enough stones," Leo said. He beckoned to the walls. "And plenty of builders, too." The townsfolk began to clap, and soon everyone joined in with a rhythmic cheer. "Down with the walls! Up with the pier! Down with the walls! Up with the pier!" Pages 30 and 31. Over the following weeks, the walls between the towns came down little by little. One layer at a time, the stones were taken away to the shore to serve as building blocks for a shared pier and a new breakwater. The people of both towns participated in the work, as far as their strength and skills permitted. Leo brought carrots and peas from his garden to the workers, and he played his violin during the breaks to keep them in good spirits. "You're doing great," Leo encouraged the builders, helping wherever he could. The smaller the walls got, the stronger the pier became. In the end, the only reminder of the walls were a few stones left here and there. The no man's land had become a shared park. Leo's little cabin stood there, firmly in the middle. Pages 32 and 33. Before the autumn storms rolled in, the shared pier was ready. From both sides of the bay, the fishing vessels could now return to the safety of the breakwater. On one brisk autumn morning, almost unnoticed among the big ships, a modest little sailing boat headed out to the open sea. Aboard was only one little boy with a canvas bag. "Leo is leaving!" a child exclaimed. Soon the shore was full of curious onlookers. "You will come back, won't you?" they called. "Of course. I'm just needed somewhere else now," Leo replied. He waved goodbye. "Take good care of my cabin and garden, and remember to fly your kites." "We will," the children replied. "Sail in safe winds, Leo." You have listened Between the Walls, a children's book by Dr. Tuula Pere, published by Wickwick, read aloud by Jessica, Virtual Voices of Wickwick Labs.